Hey, welcome to my channel. In this episode, we'll be taking a look at the biography of one of the greatest Dutch painters of all time, Vincent van Gogh. We will be looking at his childhood, rise to fame, works of art, personal life, death, legacy, and so much more. So make sure you watch until the end. Before we begin, please subscribe if you haven't already. Now let's get right into it. Vincent van Gogh was born in the village of Zundert in the Netherlands on March 30th, 1853. His father was a Protestant pastor and his mother was the daughter of a pastor. Vincent had 2 younger brothers and 5 sisters, one of whom died in infancy. Throughout his childhood, Vincent moved from place to place with his family as his father kept changing assignments. Vincent had a difficult childhood as he was an introverted and melancholy child. Also, Vincent had violent mood swings that often frightened those around him. He would often isolate himself and go for long walks alone. As such, he spent most of his time in nature, which greatly influenced his future paintings. When Vincent was 11 years old, his parents sent him to live with his grandfather in the city of Breda, while he attended a boarding school there. While living with his grandfather, Vincent developed a great interest in drawing. Vincent returned home after completing his education at the age of 16 and began working for a firm that traded in dried flowers and seeds. However, after having several disagreements with his boss over his evangelical views, Vincent quit his job and went to work for another company that sold books and tobacco. At the same time, he also began attending evening classes at an Academy of Arts in the city of The Hague. At the age of 21, Vincent left his job and moved to the city of Amsterdam. There, he studied at the Rijksacademie van Beeldende Kunsten, or the Academy of Fine Arts. However, Vincent soon became disillusioned with the classical approach to painting taught there and discontinued his studies. He then went to work for a religious association helping poor people. However, Vincent's time here was not very pleasant as he constantly fought with his superiors over his views on religion and poverty. Following this, Vincent moved to poverty-stricken areas of the Netherlands where he lived among beggars and poor farmers. Here, Vincent sketched beggars and peasants and made studies of poverty. After about a year, Vincent went back to his hometown and began painting landscapes. During this period, he produced some of his earliest known paintings. In addition, Vincent developed his artistic style and began signing his paintings with the name Vincent van Gogh. At this time, Vincent was still deeply concerned about the plight of the poor, and so he decided to become a missionary and help the poor in poverty-stricken areas of the world. He joined a London-based organization called the London Missionary Society and began studying theology in preparation for his missionary work. But after a year, Vincent's plans fell through when the London Missionary Society refused to accept him as a missionary due to his unstable health and radical views. Upon hearing this news, Vincent suffered a mental breakdown and cut off part of his ear. Following this incident, he spent several months in a psychiatric hospital before returning home. It was around this time that Vincent met the post-impressionist painter Georges Seurat. Vincent was immediately impressed by Georges' work and began emulating his style by painting scenes of peasants in the land they inhabited. Around this time, Vincent also met the artist Paul Gauguin, who was a friend of Georges. Vincent and Paul initially got along well and became friends. However, their friendship soured after Paul criticized Vincent's paintings and claimed that he lacked talent. Vincent then tried to prove Paul wrong and painted a series of masterpieces, including some of his most famous works, The Potato Eaters, Sunflowers, and The Red Vineyard. Unfortunately, none of these paintings sold during his lifetime. On top of this, Vincent's personal life was falling apart. His brother Theo was his only support system, but even Theo started to tire of Vincent's constant begging for money. In a fit of rage, Vincent wrote a letter to Theo, severing ties with him. A few days later, Vincent left his home and walked barefoot to Paris to find Theo. On the way, he slept in the open fields or begged for food and shelter. When he finally arrived in Paris, he was penniless and starving. Fortunately, Theo found Vincent and took him in. Seeing the state his brother was in, Theo realized that he had been too harsh on Vincent and so reconciled with him. Vincent's stay in Paris was quite pleasant, and he enjoyed strolling around the streets, visiting cafes and galleries, and seeing plays. He also formed a friendship with the painter Pablo Picasso and visited the home of the art collector Gertrude Stein, who owned several of Picasso's paintings. In Paris, Vincent also developed an interest in modern art and began painting in a new style that was more colorful and expressive. Unfortunately, Vincent's stay in Paris did not last long. Theo had become increasingly frustrated with Vincent's inability to sell any of his paintings and refused to financially support him any longer. As such, Vincent left Paris and returned to poverty-stricken southern France. Here, Vincent continued painting and produced some of his most famous works, including Starry Night, Harvest Under a Paling Sky, A Road in Provence, and many more. Vincent continued painting up until his death, believing that he was destined to become a great painter despite never having achieved success during his lifetime. Vincent died on July 29, 1890, at the age of 37. The cause of his death is unknown, but it's believed that he died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Vincent was buried in the village of Auvers-sur-Oise in France. His grave is located in a small churchyard and is marked by a simple headstone. Throughout Vincent's lifetime, only one of his paintings sold, and he died believing himself to be a failure. However, following his death, Vincent's work was rediscovered and has since become some of the most valuable paintings in the world. In total, Vincent created more than 800 oil paintings and 700 drawings during his lifetime. Some of his most famous works include The Potato Eaters, Sunflowers, The Red Vineyard, Starry Night, A Road in Provence, Wheatfield with Crows, The Olive Grove, Fisherman's Cottage at Sea, and many more. Vincent's paintings are now displayed in some of the most prestigious museums around the world, including the Museum of Modern Art in New York, the National Gallery in London, the Louvre Museum in Paris, and the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam, which has the largest collection of Vincent's paintings. Now, some of you might be wondering why Vincent's paintings are worth so much money. Well, it all has to do with supply and demand. Simply put, Vincent's paintings are worth a lot of money because they're in high demand, but the supply is limited. This is because Vincent only produced a small body of work during his lifetime. On top of this, a lot of his paintings were destroyed during World War II. As such, there are only a limited number of his paintings left. Due to this low supply and extremely high demand, Vincent's paintings are some of the most expensive paintings in the world. In fact, Vincent's painting Salvator Mundi was sold for a record-breaking $450 million in 2017. This makes Vincent one of the most expensive artists of all time. Aside from being an incredible painter, Vincent was also a talented writer. Throughout his life, he wrote more than 700 letters to his contemporaries. These letters give insight into Vincent's personal life and thoughts about art. In addition, they're also a valuable historical document as they provide a first-hand account of life in 19th century Europe. Many of Vincent's letters were published posthumously and have since been translated into many languages. Vincent's legacy extends beyond the art world. His story has inspired countless books, films, and documentaries. In addition, there are several museums dedicated to his life and work. One of the most popular is the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam, which houses the largest collection of his paintings and drawings. Every year, millions of people visit these museums to learn about Vincent's life and see his incredible art. If you want to learn more about Vincent's life, there are several great biographies available. One of the most comprehensive is Vincent van Gogh, The Complete Paintings, which was written by the art historian Hans Luyten. Another great biography is Vincent van Gogh by the art critic and historian Ronald de Leo. And that's all for today's episode. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like and subscribe for more content. Also, if you have a topic that you would like me to cover in a future episode, just leave it in the comments and I will get to it as soon as possible. Thanks for watching.